Joining us now by phone,
former Arkansas governor and Fox News contributor Mike Huckabee. He's an eyewitness to all of this. He rode out the storm in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. So it sounds, Governor, like the eye passed a little bit to the east of you. It must have been pretty scary.
Well, John, we were very fortunate, if you want to call it that. But if you're on the left side of a hurricane, which for me is the only time I ever want to be on the left side of anything. But in this case, that's where we were. And that means that most of our wind actually came from the north as the hurricane was coming back around in its counterclockwise rotation. But we had relatively little damage compared to what's happened east of us, where it's just mass devastation. From Panama City Beach, which is about 20 miles east of us, on eastward from there all the way to Apalachicola and beyond, devastating losses and destruction. And so it was scary in a lot of ways. You know, it's one of those things you don't really want to go through again. But I will say that there was extraordinary coordination. Governor Rick Scott did a magnificent job in staging assets in advance of the storm. The preparations for it, even though there weren't the level of warnings, it wasn't like we had several days. This thing kind of popped up on Saturday, Sunday, and then it got much worse, escalating to a Cat 4 during the night before it actually hit. So there was, fortunately, a lot of preparation done in advance. This would have been a much worse storm in terms of loss of life had there not been the level of leadership on the part of Governor Scott, FEMA, and local emergency management officials.
Well, some of these pictures, Governor Huckabee, that we're seeing now coming in from Mexico Beach, just complete destruction there. We just spoke to the Cajun Navy, the head of the Cajun Navy, who said they haven't even been able to get in there yet. But you rode this out in your home in Santa Rosa Beach, and some of your neighbors who couldn't ride it out in their homes, you welcomed them in yours.
We did have neighbors who sheltered with us because our home is relatively new. It's built to exceed the latest hurricane codes. It's not, you know, something that you're so foolish about to say, well, it's indestructible. The people on the Titanic thought that. But as much as it is humanly possible to engineer a structure that is designed specifically to withstand, you know, a hurricane, I think, you know, that's what, when we built this house, is what we did. It managed fine. There were a lot of features in the house, hurricane screens and so on. It reminds us of why we spent that money to build it this way, and certainly makes me glad we did.
Well, you've got water very close by. As you look around today, what kind of damage are you seeing?
The water damage was relatively small. We had a very angry Gulf of Mexico yesterday that was providing for us waves 20, 29 feet high, and something we'd never seen before. But again, because of the fact that most of our wind, the most heavy part of it blew from the north, when the waves would have been at their worst, the wind was pushing them back. And so it gave us a little relief. Now, further to the east, where it was coming ashore directly, that's where you see this extraordinary devastation like they experienced at Mexico Beach, as well as in many parts of Panama City Beach, where that was a direct force wind of up to 150 miles an hour, 155, just short of a Cat 5. And there's just not much that anybody can do when the winds are that heavy. And those are tornado-level winds by far, but they're sustained winds over several hours. So it's not just like it comes through, blows, and gone. It comes in, it stays, and that wind is on the ground for quite some time. And that's why, you know, these hurricane events can be so incredibly devastating to property.
Governor Huckabee, so glad to hear you're doing okay, and those around you, your neighbors, you were able to help out. We spoke to Senator Marco Rubio at the top of the show of Florida, and he was talking about the need for housing. There are so many that are just plain left without their homes, and it is a situation perhaps that no one could have predicted. What is that going to be like? Obviously, rescue efforts are ongoing at this moment, and rebuilding is another thing, but some completely left without homes.
Long-term, Sandra, that's going to be one of the great challenges because this is a tourist area, as you well know, and that means you have an enormous number of people in the service industry. Affordable housing for people who work in the tourist industry is already a challenge. When you add to that the destruction of a lot of homes and a lot of housing, apartments, trailer parks, et cetera, where people have been living, the ones most susceptible to being destroyed, the time it takes just to rebuild is extraordinary. So there's going to be a huge economic impact over a long period of time, I would say for 18 months or so, as not only is just a matter of cleaning up the debris. That's not that difficult. I mean, you know what's on the ground, you get it up, you get it out of there. Mm-hmm. But rebuilding, that's something altogether different, and it will be a real challenge to find affordable and immediate housing that will take care of the people who live here year-round, as well as the ones who serve the tourist industry, and then getting those condominiums, the hotels, the restaurants back up to operation. At least it's during the winter, it's the off-season, but there's still going to be enormous challenges. I will say there's going to be a great level of construction industry activity that'll be going on for the next many months.
And we pray for all those involved and all those affected by this massive storm. Governor Mike Huckabee, glad you're all right. Thanks for the phone call in.
Great to talk to you guys. Take care.
Thanks, Governor.